King did say a court order cannot stop the National Assembly or the Senate from prosecuting their mandate. And therefore, whether there's a court order or not, because that is one of the things that the governor of K24 did want or did use in his objections to stop the Senate from hearing his impeachment trial. And the Senate Speaker said, a court order cannot stop us from prosecuting our mandate. And the only thing that made that impeachment hearing of Governor Eric Mutai to be stopped was the fact that the County Assembly did not meet the 2/3 threshold. Now, even as Gachagua goes to the courts, what does that mean? Will the sessions continue regardless of the ruling or not? Good thing is we have former LSK President here, Eric Theory, who will help us to dissect that particular issue. Now, gentlemen, I know Mr. Sosini wanted to make a point in regards to what we were talking about. I'll just give you a minute, kindly.
Yes, or even less. Yeah. Number one, on the rollout of universal health coverage, there is no debate. It must be rolled out now, not tomorrow. It must cover Kenyans. Our facilities must have medical resources so that then when you talk about transfer of funds from national government to county government, it is part of what will enable the facilities to move. So I think at this point, we are not at the point of being defensive or offensive. We are at the point of addressing ourselves to practical and real issues. And these are the major programs, flagships of the president, the pillars that he promised Kenyans. But then the question is, those people who are vested with the responsibility of rolling out this program must understand and must provide the proper leadership. And that is one. Two, the elements of conflict of interests, corruption and business interest within the same programs must be addressed. The president talked about the problem of this country being that of incompetencies in leadership and conflict of interest. It is very likely we'll have such similar issues within these programs, whether it's universal health coverage, whether any other program. And I think all what we need now is leadership within this program. And I would expect governors to be at the center of conversation and everyone else, so that then every Kenyan accesses quality health care. Then number two, we don't need to debate in this country about why there is a cash crunch in the transfer. We know the finance bill collapsed, and the finance bill was about collection of revenue. The finance bill 2023 was able to collect 2.4 trillion. Finance bill 2024 was expected to raise up to 2.9 trillion. For this country to have a balanced budget and smooth transfer of funds, we need in the near future to raise revenue to at least 5 trillion annually and at least 22% of the GDP. We are still at around 16%. So these are issues that we need to fix in terms of revenue collection and revenue collection transfer measures. We will live with this cash transfer problem for quite a while to come. And so schools will continue suffering in terms of cash transfer, countries will continue suffering, and it will have to be cured from having a permanent and agreeable revenue collection measure, so that then Kenyans should be able to question the quality of services they are getting. Kenyans should question the quality of health care. Kenyans should question the quality of education that is getting to their children after paying taxes. So the thing is, we must shift the conversation to us accepting to pay the taxes and then demanding for the services. Otherwise, we cannot demand for the services when we have not raised the requisite revenues for the same.
Fair enough, Mr. Sosion. Now, getting back to the conversation this particular morning, and before I engage Wakili, I want to get your assessment, Mr. Charles Owino, in regards to the current political situation, because the political temperatures keep on rising with there's impeachment fever left, right, and center, and then CIC saying they're concerned about the country's political situation. What would be your assessment of the current political situation in the country?
Before I get into that, just allow me to say that, Mr. Theory, I'm not in denial that there's a cash crunch, and Mr. Sosiona has explained it very well. And there's much more we need to do as Kenyans, and that is why we need to sit as a country and understand what we need for our country, so that we don't pull on different directions, especially when it comes to matters of national interest. and I want to encourage all Kenyans possible. I want Mr. Deuri to be ambassador on this. You are highly respected, and I know your face would be important to us, that you encourage Kenyans to enroll on SHA, because that is what we have, and help us.
I can't speak for him, but I believe he'd want to push something that is working.
Yes, but this one you have no alternative, my brother. It must work, and it must work for all of us. It's not about government, it's not about who is in government, but this is the universal health coverage that we have. Okay. So we want to encourage everyone to enroll and ensure that every person is enrolled in this program. And this will also help us in pooling resources so that we can be able to support. Okay. Political temperatures, there's a government in place. And whatever is happening is government trying to restructure itself. And at the end of the day, when you form government, you will either be counted as succeeded or has failed. So I suppose those who are doing whatever they are doing, it's a political trajectory, and therefore those who have started it must be having a reason politically as to why they are doing it.
So from where you say it is a political process. It is not about accountability. It is not about, you know, a legal process.
No, no, no. You see, as much as it is political, accountability will come in, legal issues will come in, and that is why you find somebody going to court, and that is why you find the process going through Parliament, going through Senate. So there must be a legal process. But basically, it is a political equation.
Okay, thank you very much. Wakili, coming to you, yesterday we saw the Senate vote to terminate the impeachment hearing of K24 Governor Eric Mutai on grounds of the County Assembly failing to meet the required threshold to impeach the governor. I mean, how comes members of the County Assembly did not even put that particular law into consideration? The fact that they debated and the Speaker did communicate the same, the decision of the County Assembly to the Speaker of the Senate, it paints a picture of, you know, MCAs are sort of the lawmakers in the county, in the counties, and it paints a picture of the leaders that we have. If they cannot consider such crucial constitutional matters when impeaching a governor for this particular case, it raises a lot of questions.
Yeah, yes, indeed, and I was also quite surprised that they overlooked that very critical question because a threshold is very, very important. The law is very clear on the number, and so I think that they may have looked at the point, because the issue was actually the point, to say that you know, maybe we have reached the threshold, but I would have expected them to have dealt with that issue, because that is a preliminary issue before they can engage in the impeachment process. So it looks like that they may just have wanted to pass a message that they are displeased or all that. But generally speaking, what that means is that they are now reducing the purpose for which impeachment proceedings are there, because it is not just about saying, you know what, we have the power to impeach, and so therefore we will impeach. The offenses must be there, the thresholds must be met, because all those are important. If you don't do it, then it becomes something else. It becomes a mockery of the law, and it looks like lynching, and that it is motivated by other considerations other than the purpose for which impeachment are supposed to be held, and that is to hold political leaders, executive political leaders, to a threshold of the Constitution, of either violation of the law, committing offenses, and the other ground. So if you are not able to get to that level, it really paints a very bad picture, and I think that this is an embarrassment to the leadership of the county of Kericho that they did not get to the required threshold in terms of the numbers that were needed to impeach the governor.
Fair enough. Mr. Sosion, even as Mr. Theory talks about, you know, it being an embarrassment. Now, the question right now is the issues of, you know, impeachment, the issues surrounding the impeachment of leaders here in the country. From where you sit, would you term some of them as, you know, just vengeance and settling political scores as opposed to accountability? Because when it gets to a point where you know, focused on just throwing someone out the door without even regard to what the law says, it paints a very bad picture. And there are talks ongoing out there that even for the impeachment of the Kericho governor, yes, there are grounds, 3 grounds where they wanted as to why they wanted the governor to be impeached, but there are issues of, you know, political wrangles within the county in itself.
And political wrangles, it could have several substrata, and therefore, if indeed from the petition that the MCAs of Kericho had grounds on the 3 issues, then they would file an impeachment. The problem with the Kericho, and I said it in TV 47, was the threshold. And you know, you cannot weaponize impeachment. You must do it within the confines of the Constitution and the law. It is something that cannot be weaponized. It was not placed in the Constitution so that it is used to unfairly bundle out officers from, or president or deputy or anybody else, or state officers out of office. It was there to be utilized fairly and effectively to correct governance. So that one of Kericho, right from the word go, it was a faulty process. The process was faulty, but the petition of impeachment may have had merits. And so if the process, if you don't meet the threshold, then however strong the merit in the petition, then it doesn't meet the requirement. Let me say generally about impeachment. Why did Kenyans put impeachment in the Constitution in 2010? Why? Because it was identified that the biggest problem we have in this country is governance. And that state officers can violate the Constitution, state officers can violate existing laws, and that's impunity. State officers can engage in criminal action. State officers can engage in gross misconduct. And therefore, the only way to remove them from office is through impeachment. And so the only mistake that was done, and the president here can agree with me, is that there is no impeachment law that exists in the country, so that then it guides in how it's done, how the public participation would be done. We are now relying on the general rulings of the Supreme Court, which of course is guiding the process. But I think with the implementation of the Constitution, within 1 year or 1.5 years, we should have had an act guiding impeachment processes. We should have had an act guiding the public participation process, so that public participation is not calling a few people to the boardrooms by committees of parliament or institutions that deem to do that, or even act that guides on the referendum. But on this one, okay, the impeachment, the success, we have seen some of the successful impeachment really mounted, and matters of merit petition against state officers. For me, I would say the chicks have come home to roost. Kenyans are discovering slowly by slowly and exercising their power, their sovereign power to participate in public matters. Like, look at the finance bill. The level of participation by Kenyans in 2023 was an all-time high. But in 2024, it was even far much higher, which is a good thing. And we expect 2025, the country should prepare. And I think if Parliament is very foresighted, it should have a Public Participation Act ready by February, March, so that then any public participation issue related to the finance bill going into the future will be done in a proper way. Civic education will be conducted so that we don't have uprisings by citizens, but we have points of convergence, okay, and agreements. And for this one of impeachment, we should have more impeachments. Where there is impunity by a county governor, that governor must be impeached. Where there is impunity and gross misconduct by any other state officer, say a minister, that person must be impeached. And this is where the county governments and the National Assembly should seize this opportunity and exercise the power given to them by the people to correct governance. That is the only way we can correct governance. So the chicks have come home to roost. The clause on impeachment is being applied correctly, but it should be applied within the confines of the law. So that then, when we talk of Gachagwa's impeachment, as we expect in the next stage, it is about 11 charges. Nothing outside the confines of the 11 charges.
Fair enough.
Is he guilty or not? And you are given an opportunity to defend yourself. The president cannot be fired like before by the president. The deputy president will be fired by a process.
Fair enough. Mr. Sossion has touched about the National Assembly, and I want us to now focus on the impeachment of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Now, the same Parliament that Mr. Sossion talks about, in regards to the Public Participation Act, has been accused of being captured by the executive, and the allegations that, in as much as the president has not even, publicly spoken about the impeachment of his deputy, the National Assembly was under his directives. That has been the assumption out there. There's no, clear information as to whether he did indeed support the motion or not. But for the House leadership to support this motion, it is believed that it has the blessings of the president. Now, the National Assembly has been questioned in regards to prioritizing matters that affect Kenyans, and the impeachment of the deputy president has been termed as one issue that does not directly affect Kenyans. There are other pertinent issues. There are the issues of health. There's the issue of the JKI takeover by Adani. There are very other pertinent issues. But the Parliament, time and again, has failed to address these key issues. For example, even after the impeachment of the deputy president, the next morning, Parliament lacked quorum to transact its business, matters affecting Kenyans. First of all, do you think from where you sit, the National Assembly is captured by the executive?
We are in a multi-party democracy. And in a multi-party democracy, when you campaign, you fight to get majority in parliament. One of the reasons why you want to get majority in parliament is so that you can be able to execute business of the house as a government. Because the opposition is always ready. Every opposition must be ready and be prepared to take over government from a sitting government. So you may find a situation where when you don't have majority, even some of the programs that you may want to bring in, which are very good, they may not get through because of that. Now, when it comes to the issues of impeachment of Deputy President, I haven't had the President speak. He's been quiet over it. So people may have their speculations, but I don't think I'll be qualified to know whether they are actually captured or they are simply working together for a common purpose.
What is the common purpose?
Because you see, before we had a situation where presidents would appoint their deputies and would fire them, the way they fire ministers and the rest. Currently, I don't think the president has that power. So if Parliament, members of Parliament have a feeling that they would want to, they have their reasons and their accusations which have been listed, and you saw the Deputy President defending himself in Parliament of those accusations. He's also forming base so that in event he is impeached, then he would have opportunity maybe to go to court to defend himself on the processes. You saw what happened in Kericho. It has gone to the Senate for prosecution, but eventually it has been found that it did not meet the threshold. So I think it will be a good opportunity to grow democracy in that line, that people can be impeached for one reason or another. But if there's any other reason under waters which we don't know, so be it.
Fair enough. Mr. Theory, I want to know from your end whether you think the National Assembly, from your own assessment, is operating independently and is not a house that is captured, because in as much as the allegations that they are captured by the executive and even the impeachment of the DP is a directive from the executive, there's also the concern regarding, bribery, because members of Parliament have been accused of being bribed, including in the impeachment portion of the Deputy President. How does that paint, a house that Kenyans are looking at, and MPs were elected to address issues affecting them, and they've turned a blind eye on key issues that affect Kenyans. And instead, if the allegations of bribery are true, then how does that paint them?
You know, in everything, I think there are those who say that perception is everything. The allegations that Parliament may be captured and that maybe even certain decisions that have been made may have been influenced by other factors, including bribery, as you have put out, are just what they are, allegations. And we must proceed on a really factual basis and ask ourselves two things. One, when it comes to the impeachment process, the Constitution and the law allows Parliament to undertake that role. Did they file a proper motion? Yes, they did. Was it supported by the requisite numbers? Yes, it was. Then the other question when it comes to the silence or otherwise of the president in this issue, that again is also something that we must assess on a factual basis. His silence may be interpreted in one way or the other, but that is just what it is. It is an interpretation, and it matters from how I will interpret it, to how Mr. Owino will interpret it, to how Sosion will interpret it. We will all see it from very different perspectives, depending perhaps even with our own biases and our own opinions. So the question would be, if this is, not even if, the question of impeachment is a constitutional process, and that Parliament has the constitutional mandate to impeach. The President has no role in that process. And I think that sometimes it is also fair to say that you allow the institutions to carry out their mandate without interference. But the innuendo around it.
Mr. I just want you to hold on. I'll give you a chance to finish. Let's just take a brief break, and I'll give you time to finish.
Okay.
We're taking a short break, and then we'll continue this conversation. And I want you, Mr. Theory, to also respond to the issue of the National Assembly or the Senate cannot be injunctioned. The Senate Speaker ruled yesterday that regardless of what the courts say, they cannot stop the National Assembly from implementing or doing their mandate. Is that the case? And if so, does Gachagua have any hope in regards to the ruling that is supposed to be made today at 2:30 p.m.? That will be after this brief break. Don't go away.